In 2021, we had a game called It Takes Two come out. It's a really fun platformer, and it even won Game of the Year. As a result, we now have a new game by the same developers called Split Fiction. But is this game actually good, or is this fiction best left split? To find out, pick up a controller and let's play Split Fiction. I should also mention I will talk about the opening, but I won't talk about the actual main overarching plot itself. I will talk about side stories or the stories the characters enter, however, that will make sense soon, I promise, but rest assured, the main story itself will not be spoiled. A company known as Radar, spelled as Rader and not Radar, basically meaning it's radar and not radar, but at that point just call it Radar, created a set of pod-like devices authors could step inside and these devices would knock them out and have their consciousness enter simulations of their own stories. I gotta say, that's a really fun and interesting concept. I mean, It Takes Two had so much creativity with its tiny people in a large world theme, but that theme being their house and having different areas be different places within their house, but still really creatively done. There's a lot you could do there, but with this game, it just basically allows the writers to go, I'm the Homelander. I can write whatever the fuck I want. In a way, though, I do think being able to write whatever you want really does limit the creativity in some ways. It reminds me of a thought I've had for such a long time now, actually. You see, yeah, Lego Movie has a ton of ideas and there's more variety and they all fit Lego. I don't know, I just don't find it as creative as doing like 100 really cool things that all fit within the one same theme. And that brings me to Night of the Museum 2. There's a clear limitation by the idea of History Museum. But there's still so much you can do with that, especially when it's the biggest one in the entire world. Busts are alive, painting are literal portals to the locations they're set in. Water fountain cupids are alive and can sing. Also are played by Nick Jonas. Gift shop Einsteins can all talk. Giant Abraham Lincoln statue. He's alive and he's giant. I just think creativity is more impactful when there is a restriction there, and that just in a way makes it more creative because it has that link. And while I don't want to discredit Split Fiction because it does a lot of really cool creative stuff, I think in terms of being more creative, I definitely have to give the point to the previous game. And like, the whole niche in fiction of writers becoming lifelike, that's really cool. But it is quite a niche thing, so you don't see much done with it regardless, and that's a shame. So I'm glad this game's here to pick that back up. With all the different themes you can tackle with this, however, there was a big part of me that was just kind of waiting for a slasher or horror novel type story. Yeah, me playing Alan Wake around the same time of this game was a coincidence. I didn't even think of it much. But yeah, I think that game had an effect on me. Our two main characters, Mio, who I will refer to as Mio because her name is Mio, and Zoe, the character I played, are two of these authors brought in for these pods. Mio didn't want to do it as they weren't told what would happen by Radar because wouldn't there be like contracts or waivers or documents that have to be signed before something like this could take place? Also, did nobody question the outfits they were forced to put on before entering the area? Do these guys think they're Umbrella or something? But what I find even weirder is the fact that out of all these authors, one questioned it. None of the others. They were like, okay, sure, we're doing this, I guess. But there was only one who questioned it. Again, no legal documents of any kind were signed before this happened. Someone get Law by Mike on the phone. Saul Goodman and Matt Murdock are too busy at the moment. Wait, speaking of Matt Murdock, if the simulations are inside the people's heads, would that mean Matt Murdock would be able to see in these simulations? Because of the lack of legal documentation ahead of time, Mio freaks out and enters Zoe's bubble, which caused glitching as this was never intended nor tested, despite how easy it could have happened. Are you sure you couldn't put like walls and a door around the pod or something? Complaints aside, this character select transition is really smooth.
What are you doing here?
Zoe Foster, I've been sent from Skynet. Prepare to be terminated. Oh yeah, for each story you enter, you get a different costume and / or design, which makes a lot of sense, but it's still cool to see anyway. Kinda reminds me of Mario Party 2. You also get given unique powers, transformations, or things that you can use to help you get around. Why does this dragon remind me of Sonic? I do also love that each of the two protagonists has their own core theme which they love. It just adds more to their personality, and the two contrasting personalities do clash a lot, so having two different themes that also contrast a lot and clash a lot, it makes sense. Mio's is sci-fi, while Zoe's is fantasy. Another detail I absolutely love is how each world will construct around you like you're playing Assassin's Creed 2 or something. Speaking of which, Assassin's Creed 2 reference. There is many video game references here actually, from Dark Souls to Assassin's Creed 2 to Hazelight's other game. And you get a trophy for ripping the elephant's ear off. Come on, that's hilarious. The fact that I saw this thumbnail like an hour or two before the game officially launched is also hilarious, a real life foreshadowing. The game will have you going through different stories, collecting glitches, which are these little rift crack looking things in an attempt to break free. You going through an entire main story to get to the end to get a glitch. Thank fuck George R.R. Martin and Tolkien aren't playable, otherwise this game would be longer than Persona 5. Oh, and then you've got the bosses. These are great. Like, It Takes Two already had amazing bosses, but this game just absolutely stomps them in comparison. As for the bosses themselves, these will rely on both players using their abilities together in certain ways to beat the bosses and do damage. Makes sense as this is a co-op game, so why not have co-op integrated into the bosses themselves? And again, this game does it way better than It Takes Two, as the bosses all feel tighter, each hit feels more impactful, they're more fun, and they're just far better designed in general. And I should probably mention it now, I know I've compared this game to It Takes Two in quite a few ways. It's just kind of hard not to, as this game is so clearly trying to recapture the magic of It Takes Two. And you know what? It does it really well. And another thing this game does better than It Takes Two is the side content. Now, this is something where people didn't know fully what to expect, but they had a rough idea. It was replacing side minigames with full-on side quests, new areas to explore. What really makes these interesting, however, is these are unfinished or older stories of Mio or Zoe, which help dive into the character minds very well. As these are unrelated stories, these also can just do whatever they want. What about a Candyland created by a 5-year-old version of Mio, the more serious character, which is a surprising contrast to her, just for it to become a deliciously frightening and perfectly intimidating dentist boss fight? No? Fine. Here's a story being drawn and written while you play it. Man, stylistically this one looked amazing, and the 3D section at the end, it made my jaw drop. Trust me, these are all insane. Well, not all insane, but they're all good. Yeah, one negative I have to say about this particular part of Split Fiction, well, Mios are fun, but most of them have a really big issue. Hello, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is the TARDIS throw. Zoe's stories are all really different themes from the normal stuff, but Mio's do mostly feel like sci-fi still. I get what they were trying to do here by having it just show that she cares more about sci-fi than Zoe cares about fantasy, but I don't know, isn't the whole appeal of these things the fact that they are different themes? I mean, if they had to try and do this a little, I'd say there's a certain two I think that are perfectly fine, but apart from that, all we needed is them to have the Hot Potato Bomb game show one, which honestly was really cool, possibly my favourite, even if a more conventional twisted game show idea would have been really cool, probably better. And then the sun exploding one, because Jesus Christ, this is the darkest part of the game by far. You're trying to run through and time your movement so you don't get absolutely blasted by the sun, but while you're doing that, there's all these people down here dying. Not only the men, but the women and children too. Everybody dies! That does remind me though, I do wish the game was rated 18 so they could literally do whatever the fuck they wanted, as there is a bit of a restriction because of the age rating, and like, I'm not saying it'd have to be really mature all the way through, because I think that inconsistency is what makes Split Fiction work with these side stories. There's just so much different things going on that you can just jump into out of nowhere and then just jump back into the main stuff. I also think the harsher age rating just, again, would have let them do more, and I just think having the harsher age rating there would have been really impactful for these moments, then they could just push them as much as they wanted. Like that pig section where they get grinded into hot dogs. Add some gore, why not? Or hell, the game show one again. If they did my idea of a more traditional game show where two players, aka Mio and Zoe, are competing, what if the loser ends up getting like a Mortal Kombat fatality done on them or something? That would have been cool. And again, more impact. Speaking of impact, I also think just because these would only be a few cases in a few of the side stories, it would have just made them stand out all the much more. As for side stories that should have been changed, most of Mio's, like, wow. Why are all of these sci-fi? Well, most of them sci-fi. Like, this heist one so easily could have been a western. Or hell, that Cool Borders Cross Tony Hawk one could have been a full-on competitive sports thing. Why does it have to be tech-themed? Overall, the side quests are really fun, and I definitely think they are a highlight of this game. They're just such a fun shake-up and fit into the game so well. And to the people who absolutely love the minigames from It Takes Two where you can be competitive with the other player, a few of the side stories are competitive, just not a lot of them.
Also, this game has crossplay and brings back the Friend Pass feature. So, if one person owns the game, another person can play with them, and it's entirely for free.
I can't lie, it honestly reminds me of the DS's download play.
Yeah, and now we can play and do the video together.
Evelyn, listen, I already did the video.
What do you mean you already did the video?
I've edited it. It's too late, the video's done, it's already out. You're a bit late. We can do a collab on Sonic Forces if you want.
I can't believe you.
So it seems Split Fiction was good after all, just wish I got the video out sooner. I really underestimated the fact that you need two people whose schedules are perfectly lined up and you both want to play the game at the time they line up. Yeah, I definitely should have thought that through before thinking I could get the video done in like 10 days of the game's release. But overall, I definitely recommend picking up a controller and playing Split Fiction. Hey, does anyone remember that Split Fiction Friend Edition trailer where to promote the Discord server to find people to play with? Like, they literally had an ad where the game ships with a person, and they just come out of the box, sit down on your couch and play the game with you. Oh, that's funny. My first idea was a group of stories in a sort of gauntlet-like room that you can tackle in any order you want. My second idea was something kind of like the Oracle level from Skylanders Giants. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but you would go through different paths based off of different choices you'd have to make, and like each path would have a different challenge you'd have to overcome, and at the end, depending on where you ended up, you'd have like a few different endings, each with their own reward. I think something like that should be implemented if they do DLC for this game, because that way there's just more replay value, because you just have a good reason to go back and get all the endings. Like, it wouldn't have to be anything crazy. I'd say 4, 5, 6 maximum. I mean, if you want to do more, I'm more than okay with that. As for the last idea, I think they definitely need to lean into the more competitive side of things, because there was a few side stories that were competitive, but they are few. They are very few. So, like, a whole list of minigames you could unlock that would just have you being competitive against each other, maybe using some of your powers from the different worlds, that would be awesome. Oh, wait a minute. I got a message from Evelyn. Let me check it. What the fuck do you mean a movie's been announced? The game hasn't been out for a month yet.